Hi. Ishmeet, Anton introduced me. I've been at MuleSoft for close to 12 years, and I am honored to be here and introduce this esteemed panel, Vikas, who is the president at Oculus, which is an AI document and analytics platform powering lending decisions for hundreds of customers, including PayPal, Brex, and SoFi, Plaid, etc. Vikas is based out of New York. Anna, who is the VP of Operations at Ivo, they're building and scaling the post-sales function at Ivo and using Sonora. The platform itself is an AI contract intelligence platform that is used by companies like Uber and Shopify and Reddit and Canva, etc. And then lastly, Mike Blank, who's the COO at Retool. They are actively evaluating Sonora right now. And Retool, for those of you who don't know, is a platform that companies use to build internal applications. And Mike recently published a report on build versus buy in 2025, I think, which says that about 35% of tech companies are already building platforms and doing away with their SaaS applications. So it's interesting to have Mike on the stage here because he's going to tell us all about why he's choosing not to build a post-sales platform. Right? So with that, we'll keep this crisp and punchy. There's 4 things that I want us to take away today, okay? And we'll jump into questions right after. So first thing, just reality check on Agentic AI. Everyone's talking about building their own agents, building their own applications, the SaaSocalypse. I think we've all heard about this. So building is easier than ever. However, really building a reliable, secure, governable platform at scale, what's the reality there look like, right? And that's why companies like Oculus and Ivo are investing in Sonora in this day and age. So we'll talk about that. The build versus buy is a real debate. So Mike, I'm going to ask you some questions about why are you choosing to not build in this situation. I've spent 12 years in the post-sales arena. I'm passionate about this, and I haven't been able to solve this problem yet with any tech that is out there. So I want to get Mike's perspective on this. Third, leading AI native companies are already running some agentic post-sales. So what does that look like and what does that entail? And the third and last is the future is personalization. So any of these systems agents are only just as good as how well they understand your customers, your data. And the system in and of itself is not the shiny object, right? So with that, let's launch into the first question. Vikas, why don't you tell us what led you to choosing Sonora?
Yeah. so we looked at a number of platforms, and at the end of the day, we're an AI-enabled document data and analytics platform. We work with small business lenders, mortgage lenders, and what we'll do is we'll help automate their underwriting flows. So if you're a mortgage lender, if anyone's in this room has gone through a mortgage underwrite, you may have dealt with the process where you'll upload literally hundreds of pages of documents, and then you'll wait weeks to hear back from somebody, and then they'll send you back some questions. And what we do is we compress that whole process into sometimes as little as 10 to 15 days. We're able to give back our lenders quick insights in terms of what the documents required for their underwrite. And a key piece of what we do is we ensure that there's personalization in the process. So when we were looking at tools, we wanted to make sure that our business, which is different than everyone else's business up here and different than many of your businesses, that the Sonora team could understand what we were looking for in a post-sales tool. And when we were meeting with Anton and Paul and the team and talked through certain things that were important to us, it felt like they were really listening. It felt like they weren't just spitting back things we wanted to hear, but actually coming back to us with thoughtful responses and ideas that we could think about to help improve our flow, and then product ideas that they could build into the platform to help us take it to another level of scale. So for us, a lot of it was personalization and an understanding of like what we wanted to do, and not necessarily take our approach and try to fit it into their whole, but try to customize what was important to us to their platform.
And thank you for that. And quick follow-up. So what outcomes have you seen so far?
Well, one area that I think is the most important for us. So we've been growing pretty quickly. We're closing about 3 enterprise customers a week. And one of the things that we're really focused on is Last year, we ended the year with about 350, last year meaning the end of 24. We finished about 350 enterprise customers. At the end of 25, we finished with about 500. This year, we'll finish closer to 750. We believe heavily in a client touch, being close with our customers, understanding what's important to them. But we also don't necessarily want to scale our account management function linearly with the number of customers we have. And we want to be smart about where we apply our resources. So the piece that was most important to us was trying to find leverage with a tool that could allow us to make sure the account management resources we do have, making sure we can focus their efforts on the highest value add problems.
That's amazing. And I heard you, when we were having drinks, I heard you guys talk about building health scores.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's been the, I would argue the health score for us is kind of like the table of contents or the index for our customers. We have certain customers who are doing, like before Sonora, every customer, the amount of time we spent with them was somewhat similar, regardless of if they were doing really well or not so well. If they're doing not so well, we would obviously invest more time. But now with Sonora, we can use a health score that we've calibrated over time to identify the most important variables from a slew of different sources to help us understand how they're doing. And that allows us to really take the time that we have with our account managers, our CS folks, as well as product and engineering to allocate those valuable resources to the clients and the problems that are the most impactful.
So thanks for that, Vikas. And I brought up health scores because everyone in this room probably has dealt with health scores. And how sexy is it to have a great health score, right? Tell me about it. It does nothing for my business if the health score is built out of junk. It's like garbage in, garbage out. But what I heard these guys talk about really lit my eyes because they were talking about piping critical customer conversations, including emails and transcripts from calls, into that health score, which is a problem that I haven't seen being solved yet. So that is pretty powerful.
This was a conversation we had about 10 minutes ago. So with Mike, who's our head of CSAM, and we're calibrating this score now, and we have an intuitive sense based on our account managers on which customers are doing well, which ones are not. And in the past, if you had a tough call with the customer, all of a sudden you'd get Slacks and text messages and emails, and everyone would be focused on that customer to make sure things went well. Now, with the health score that we've calibrated and are still calibrating, we can be much more objective about where we want to spend our time and make sure, just because a customer is frustrated and maybe having a tough situation, we're not going to necessarily jump all over it if it doesn't necessarily mean the best for all of our customers and their outcomes.
So it's not just the fact that a tool, there's all these tools out there that I've seen have health scores, but I think you can customize, you can calibrate. I think what you're saying is you can really tailor it to what your business needs are, and you can really hone in on the signal that you're looking for versus just whatever signal that health score is giving you. Okay. Thank you. Same question to you, Anna. So tell us about your journey with Sonora a little bit. What led you to using them, and what outcomes have you seen so far?
Yeah, so Ivo was a much earlier stage company, and so when I joined to lead and build the CS function, it was very much as we were rapidly scaling up our accounts, but we had kind of 2 CSMs managing between 200 and 400 accounts. It was, how do we get this information into their hands as quickly as possible? And in fact, we did sort of think about whether we build something ourselves, but I think one of the magic moments with Sonora was just the speed with which it could pull that data. And so it was like that 0 to 1 moment happened within hours. And my CSM team had been asking, if, classic, come in to build a CSM team and tell me the number one thing that's going to make your job easier. And the answer was a dashboard that I can check at any moment, and it will give me real-time insights into what our customers are doing. And just to build on something that you were just saying there around having that access to that data, it's not only that it exists, but that it updates. And so I think in a world, particularly for Ivo, where our customers are being asked to move and make decisions so quickly, we can track those decisions through conversations and through product data. So if suddenly over the span of a couple of weeks that usage data drops off a cliff, we can jump in and act on it really quickly rather than waiting till the next check-in point and then being on the back foot by the time the churn risk signals have already emerged. So I think for a small and rapidly scaling CS team, it was a no-brainer to have that level of data at our fingertips right away.
That's amazing. I'm going to pivot to you, Mike, real quick here. And based on what you've heard Vikas and Anna talk about, tell us what's going on in your head. What's Retool thinking? Are you planning to do all this yourself?
That's a good question. Put me on the spot. Maybe I should step back for a second and talk about what we're seeing in the market.
That's great.
And then I can tell you about whether we're going to build it ourselves or not. So despite how young I look, I've been in technology for a long time. And the question of building something or buying something is a perennial question, right? And I was talking to our head of CS as we were walking here, and he said, do you fix your own car? And I said, well, I could, but I don't, because that's a lot of work and it's a waste of my time. But as you think about that in the context of software and building software, that same question exists, right? What's the opportunity cost? And as the cost of code has gone to zero, the equation of building versus buying has shifted. And arguably, any of us can build anything right now. This is the first time in history where any of us can build anything virtually instantaneously. But that comes with a host of implications that you have to worry about. And so as I think about the question, will we build it or will we buy it, we grapple with those implications. And so you alluded to some of the data at the outset. We did a study of 1,000 customers. Retool has about 10,000 customers. Everybody from OpenAI uses us, to Apple, to, I'm Canadian, so Tim Hortons, the best donuts in the world. It's Canadian? Oh, where are you from? Me too. We probably know each other. And so 35%, by the way, cut me off, I'll just talk forever. 35% of these 1,000 people that we asked questions of have already replaced a SaaS service in their enterprise. 65% have said that they will build replace one this year. That was in February. So I assume that number has ratcheted up significantly. This is across every segment, every audience. 60% have deployed something in their enterprise without IT oversight. 50% have deployed something into production, albeit in a very challenging, difficult way. And less than 10% deployed something without believing that they would, less than 10% have deployed something that required additional changes. Said differently, most have had to change something in whatever they deployed. And they aren't sure that what they deployed was what they actually wanted to deploy. So you have this moment where literally every SaaS application is in the crosshairs of this decision of build versus buy. And those that are simplest are getting replaced now. Those that are most complex are in experimentation phase. Okay, so what are the things you have to worry about? Things like, you mentioned this, just because you can build it, should you build it? Can you govern it? Is it secure? Those are big questions. And we reach this climax today where that is a massive problem. The amount of code that's being deployed that's ungoverned, most companies have no idea. That's number one. Number two, you need to not just build it, you need to maintain it. You need to own it. You need to iterate on it. You need to have expertise. That's a challenge. The speed to deploy is different than the speed to build. You have to think about that equation. And so when I think about whether we would build versus whether we would buy, it comes down to, is this thing somewhat proprietary? Does it take action on your behalf, right? Because we've crossed that chasm of passive software now into active software life cycles. Is it so hyper-specialized that we can't do it ourselves? Or are we so hyper-specialized that we should do it ourselves? Those are all the things that go through my mind. So now I'll answer your question. Could we build it ourselves? Yes. In fact, I don't mean to say this in a way that puts all of us on the spot. I could build it, you could build it, we could all build it. Should we build it? That's a very complicated question. But the reason why we're assessing this is because it's an opportunity cost. I asked Nason over there, as the COO, I said, you need to think about, I asked him kindly, I said, can you optimize the size of the team and automate more of it? So he can do that by building all the stuff himself. That's going to be pretty complicated. And so hence, we're assessing whether Sonora is the right solution for us because of that opportunity cost question. And it's a really important one. And I'm leaning, I keep saying, I think this is something we should try. And last anecdote for you. Big LLMs use Retool today. Arguably, they could build us, arguably. Should they build us? It's an opportunity cost question. Yeah. And the reality is they can't, or they won't, because we do things better than they can do themselves. Yeah. And I think Sonora does things a lot better than a lot of us could do ourselves.
I couldn't think of a more perfect way to answer that question. Thank you for that. I do think there is something to be said about, or actually a lot to be said about, can we do this perfectly in the way that we are going to engage better with our customers, that we're going to get ahead and be able to predict attrition, and that we can deliver outcomes in excess of customers' expectations. Right? I think if that's the measure of, if you overlaid that on the framework that you so eloquently laid out, it would help you decide whether this customer engagement tool is what you want or not. So, I'm going to sort of bring us to the last question here. There's lots of CS leaders in this audience, and we don't have time for Q&A, but if there's one thing that, when these folks go back and on Monday morning they should be thinking about, what would that be?
Well, I'll answer that question, but I'm going to come back to actually something you said too, because I think you said a lot of really great things, but there was one thing that really resonated with me and something that we talked to a lot of our customers about, which is like, you can build anything. And I was an engineer 20 years ago and haven't written code in probably about 15, 18 years. But in the last year, I've written a ton of code because it's so easy to do and so much fun now. And to your point, yeah, you can build anything, but the question is, should you? And we have this conversation with a lot of our customers every day. And where we come out is along the lines of what you described, and what we tell our customers, which I think is relevant here, is build your moat and buy your plumbing. So there's things that make you different against your competitors. If you look at all the competitors that you're competing with in whatever space you're in, and what makes you different from your competitors, if there is something that you think of as a competitive differentiator between you and your customers, go build that, double down on that. For most of us, post-sales is not that thing. Buy the best thing out there and find something that's hyper-personalized to you so you can make sure it works for you and your use case. So just to double down on something you said, because I very much agree with all of your points, and we're also a happy Retool customer. So
thank you. Is that our new beta? I'm trying to say.
And so to come to your question, so like for us, selfishly, we've been very focused on the client health scores. There's QBR prep and onboarding and all these other things that Anton and Paul and the team have talked to us about that we haven't yet gotten to. The health score piece is critical, and like I said, it's kind of the table of contents, the index of where we spend our time. So for us, we're in the process of calibrating it. We're getting to a really good place. And what we'll eventually talk to Anton and the team about on Monday is how do we put this on autopilot where we are taking outcomes of situations and then constantly recalibrating the health scores based on some of those outcomes. That's going to be an important piece for us to continue to progress this without having to have so much manual intervention, as we are right now with the calibration process.
Thank you. Anna?
Yeah, my experience so far has been that the more I can put the tool in the hands of the team themselves and have them iterating, building workflows, providing feedback directly to the team. Firstly, it means I don't have to do it, but also they're the ones that are going to be using it. And we will see the upside, the outcomes on the product if they actually get use out of it, because they're the ones that are using the data, putting it to use to renew, expand, and provide, exceptional customer delight. And as you mentioned, the team is so responsive, like unbelievably responsive to that feedback. I've found it most useful to have them building out their flows, sharing those use cases, and then that makes the tool much more embedded in our own processes. So that's what I'd say is put it directly in the hands of the users from the get-go.
I'll answer it a little bit more generically. I'd say if there's one thing that I'd want my CS team to do on Monday morning, it's automate almost everything. And pick one thing every day to automate out of existence. And that way that the work that they do is, the human work that they do is higher value. Because a lot of what CS teams do is about human relationship and interaction. That's the value that humans can offer, rather than, again, all the things that Sonora can automate out of the work that you need to do, the plumbing that you need to do every day. If you could eliminate all that, think about the number of hours that you would save and that you could apply then to human-centric work, human relationship building, problem solving with customers in real time. That's the kind of thing that I implore my team to do. And I think Sonora can help do some of that. Yeah.
Awesome. So if you're going to not remember any of this stuff, just remember experiment, automate, and calibrate what you're doing, right? So if we can go back Monday morning, tell us CSMs, experiment, automate, calibrate, and then for us as leaders, build your moat.
Buy your plumbing.
Thank you.